Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 3 premiere of Brea. Could not get that out. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up in the aftermath. We don't know how long it's been since the Season 2 finale. Can't be that long. No, it hasn't been that long, because, Judah says it's been 2 days or whatever. They were all hopeful they were going home, so it's literally picking up right where the season 2 finale left off. So Gavin is doing everything he can to hold on to hope. He's got this laptop, but they can't charge it and turn it on. And Izzy's obviously a little discouraged because it's just every time you turn around, our family's breaking apart in some shape or form. We're always getting separated. At least when they were separated, they had someone else with them. At least Eve had Josh, or Izzy had her dad, so on and so forth, right? But now it's all three of us are here, but mom's out there somewhere and we don't even know, and it's hard to be hopeful because Gavin's holding on to hope not only for himself, because I think for him it's that job of a parent where he believes I have to put up this front everything's okay, because I do believe it, but I have to extra believe it for my kids because even they are starting to wane on hope. At least Josh has Riley to rely on and lean on, so I think it makes it a little easier where Izzy doesn't. I think she doesn't have someone in that capacity. All the person she can lean on is her dad, but her dad's being so hopeful, and I think it makes it harder to be hopeful after everything. But it's after everything you've been through, that is reason to be hopeful, but I could also see it being a double-edged sword of everything we've been through can make you feel hopeless, because it just feels like every time we're just stumbling our way through this, and it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight. And how can we be hopeful when it just seems like every time we get our hopes up, they're dashed, in some shape or form. So Scott's helping Gavin with the computer because he's going to use a whole bunch of potatoes to charge it, because it's right, as long as we got the right materials, we'll be able to charge it, because it's easier to help someone else with their problems rather than dealing with what I'm dealing with Petra and trying to figure that out, because her mom was trying to give me a job. I was actually going to go see her when I was on my way to LA, but now she was here on why a military base ended up in 10,000 BC, which ends up being a larger thing we kind of start diving more into throughout this episode, especially when Petra brings up that her mom was trying to run away from some very bad people. It's that's why we left the military base. With what we get throughout this episode, I can only assume the military must have been working on something time travel related, because of everything that's been going on throughout the show. I wonder if it's kind of changed the course of history. I was about to say, I wonder, did any changes happening affect, for example, because we find out Gavin worked a part of some secret program. We don't know what the ins and outs of it are. It must not be enough. It must not be pertinent enough to time travel for him not to correlate there's some connection. Because I'm jumping ahead a lot. I do apologize. But I want to continue down the story thread of, all right, so they got the computer on after charging it, and someone on the other side is talking about they know where Eve is. They're looking at her right now, which I'm wondering, do they mean that literally, or are they figuratively saying that because I know what she looks like, so I can able to use this to draw you in? Are they wherever Eve is, are they monitoring her through a computer or system or something like that? Could that be what it is? Or is she literally with this person? We don't know. Not unless we find out the person typing is actually Eve, but she doesn't want to say too much because it's going to change things, maybe. So maybe she has to be secretive, or maybe she's being held hostage. Who knows? That's still a giant question mark. So there's that element to it. But the person on the computer is asking for a Sierra, but for whatever reason, Gavin's I feel it scratching at the back of my brain. I know the name Sierra, I just can't remember what it was. And so obviously the only people that would kind of remember the memory he's remembering, because I was wondering, is that him? Because I think maybe that's also why he was holding on to hope, because whereas Riley and Josh were kind of, like I said, Josh at one point in the episode was in a better place. We'll get to what happens later on, but at the time, Gavin kept having that flashback, and I thought maybe I didn't know if that was a memory or not, or whether that was just him being hopeful, but I even thought it was interesting. I'm you included Levi in that. I was well, I guess you want everything. You want your family, because Levi was practically your brother, so even though it's him and Eve had an affair, and that whole complicated situation, and after everything Levi did last season, and that kind of puts them at odds now in the aftermath of everything, of you basically screwing up everyone's attempt to go home, and just, you know, yeah, it's kind of leaves you feeling a little bleh, towards Levi. So him and Gavin aren't in the best spot. But Levi did go out of his way to get the laptop, so it proves. I mean, to be fair, he cares about Eve as well. That hasn't gone away, and it's like, right, you are my brother, you are my friend, you are family to me, and I know you're in a bad spot, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to help. So he's the one that ended up triggering the memory for Gavin so he could remember. He couldn't even remember that memory is associated with Izzy's birthday, because that's around the same time. That year is when his vision started and he started drinking, so his mind was a little scattered. So it could be, the thing is, he doesn't, maybe the program did have something to do with time travel, but because his mind was so scattered at the time, it continued to be, he hasn't quite gone back to piece a lot of those years together. Maybe it's something in that capacity, or like I said, maybe the program has nothing to do with time travel directly. But I mean, obviously, like, the military is going to be working on anything that could help them in like a more combat oriented way. So I'm like, but that's my thing of like, what is their connection in all of this? Why are they in 10,000 BC? Were they trying to... Because we know, like, the time travel element of all of this is something future related, but what if something went wrong? Somebody went back in time and started the programming, like, way, way earlier. That's where I was wondering, like, with the timey-wiminess of it all, it's like, right, things could have altered and maybe you don't remember this, things changing. Like, for example, someone went back in time and started the time travel technology, like that route for like, maybe it was always in the works back in the day, but maybe someone from the future has, the know-how to make it a reality. And so maybe present day, they've made leaps and bounds towards time travel that they originally didn't in the original timeline, right? And so what if Gavin was a part of that without realizing the program was about time travel? Like I said, if he's remembering the program correctly, we didn't really get into the ins and outs, once again, of what the program was about. So, why else would the military be after Maya, who was Sierra, but that was just like her code name. Her real name was Maya. So it connects Gavin and Petra and the people that are after her mom. Like, why else would they be after her if it wasn't for something like she knows? I was about to say, I doubt it, but I was like, not unless we find out her mom was the person from the future. Like, what if they're actually from the future? I mean, it draw even bigger parallels between her and Gavin. I mean, because they're, you see what I mean? Like, it not unless it's something like they have a similar trajectory storyline wise to like Gavin and everything. So maybe Maya's from the future, and that's why they're hunting her down, because she has future knowledge about all this. Like, she ended up helping the military out, and now like she didn't want to help them anymore because she found out what they were going to do. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm spitballing here. Sadly, Petra and Levi ended up getting snatched up by the military. Even though Levi was passing out, you could still, even in that blurry, even in his blurry view, you can still kind of make out that those were military uniforms. So, but the chopper also gave it away as well. When you have like, how the hell, it's like, right, it's related to the military, and they have that. I'm like, how do you have fuel for that thing? To be fair, it was a military base that got teleported here, so who's to say, like, they luckily probably have, like, quite a bit of supplies stacked up on it, but it's like, you're, like, one of the only people that actually have, like, vehicles in this time frame, so. You also have that situation where, the person that they were communicating with on the computer, they ended up finding out where that person was, and it leads the group to a double Aurora. So it's like, cool, there's a red and blue. One leads to one time frame and the other leads to another, but we don't know where either one leads. Well, this all ties into Josh's story, where him and Riley were, obviously they confessing their love for each other, which was actually really sweet and cute and adorable. But they ended up getting attacked by a raptor. So now it is a situation where she's severely injured, and her dad did everything he could, but it turns out she has an infection. It kind of sucks having medical knowledge, because Riley was immediately like, yeah, the fact is my vision is blurred on the edge, this and that. Like, I've got eternal wounds, external wounds, internal wounds. She recognizes I don't have that much time, so let me say what I need to say. But Sam doesn't want her to finish because it's like by saying it, you're accepting it, and I refuse to accept that this is the end. And so when giving the opportunity, Josh sees like, no. Riley needs help. He's like, I can't lose her too, because he already thinks his mom's out there, and it's just like there's no guarantee we'll get mom back. And this is something I can do, because Josh blames himself. He had that conversation with Sam where Sam was like, you think like you'd give anything to switch spots with Riley, and he's like, yeah, I would. And Sam's like, my daughter wouldn't want that. You know that, because. But Josh feels guilty because it's like, right, like Riley's in this situation because she protected me. She fought and saved me, and it's just like it should have been the other way around. It should be me, especially because it was flipped reverse back in season 1 when he was injured and kind of dying from an infection, and she was there to kind of help out in that regard. So now the shoe is on the other foot. And now it's just, he's desperate. It's like, right, I couldn't do anything for my mom. I can't do anything for my mom, but I can for Riley. I will, obviously, they've already done some time traveling end of season 1, but throughout season 2, and it's like, I'm going to take this leap for her. And so he goes into the red, so we have no idea where he ends up, but Ty gets sucked into the blue, which we find out in any episode. He's present day, a few weeks before the sinkhole opened up in Los Angeles. So you're like, interesting. I was like, okay. So now I'm starting to wonder, are we going to if he's able to warn about the sinkhole, it can change everything, because that could mean like, hey, a lot of these people are not in that area at the time, but all that sinkhole stuff needs to happen, because if it doesn't happen, they don't end up there, and it could completely change the course of everything, because them being there, it's what ended up stopping the sinkholes and the auroras and everything in the first place. So you kind of end up potentially undoing a lot of the timey-wimey damage that's been done with auroras popping up all over the place, dropping stuff in 10,000 BC, and then it can change the course of everyone's stories, because Ty remembers like everything that's kind of going down, but it's like, you would undo everyone else's story. So who do you go to talk to about all of this? It's like, well, some people that were dead before are still alive, and maybe the military base hasn't been sucked into 10,000 BC yet. So there's so much there where you're like, there's a lot you can undo, because we already know this is going to be a very, very short season. This is only going to be 6 episodes, which I think it's wild and insane, but I mean, that's how you can like undo a lot of that really quickly. Once again, final seasons always tend to be the shortest, but you'd think you'd at least get like a full order final season, but whatever. So I'm so curious to see how that plays out. Like, once again, who's the first person Ty goes to? It's like, do you go to Gavin? Because you can tell Gavin that those things he's seeing aren't. It's like, who do you turn to in this situation? Because you're going to sound like a madman wherever you go. And plus, also at this time, like, Gavin, I think, is still drinking too. So, but there is the person from season 1. She was also in I believe she was in season 2, wasn't she? Or no, I think she died back in season 1. She's the scientist that was helping Gavin, and she jumped it. Like, she and Silas, she's connected to all of this because she worked alongside Silas. I think she was the one that was from the future as well, right? So she's still alive. So she's the one person you could turn to under these circumstances. Present day Los Angeles, she'd be the only person you could really turn to. So we might see the return of her. Like I said, I'm blanking on the character's name. Aldridge is the person I was thinking of. Granted, I looked at the actress's IMDb because I was trying to remember the character's name. There's nothing that says she's going to be in season 3. Obviously, I'm getting into these episodes late, so episode 2 of the season's already come out, so I haven't seen anything. Not unless that just hasn't been updated or whatever, so maybe she's not the person that he joins forces with. Also, she does die in season 2 because that's when Silas ended up... Wait, no, that was still season 1 when Silas killed her, right? Stabbed her. Yeah, I think that was still season 1. I was like, was that season 2? I couldn't remember. It might have been season 2, but I could have sworn it was season 1. Either way. No, because the whole Gavin going back in time thing. Regardless, so it might not be Aldridge, might not be the person Ty goes to. It might be someone else. Dr. Nathan's, maybe. I don't know. Like, who do you turn to into this situation where you don't sound like a madman? That's going to be the real interesting thing. Also, your life is a little different back in 10,000 BC because you're married to Para, and so it's like, what do you do about that? It's like, that's the dangers of, well, you can warn people, but then you'd undo a lot of your own life. That's also going to be like, gotta watch out for the paradox of it all, because there's a you running around right now too that you have to watch out for. So, I mean, depends on if you're in, I mean, you might have been in the Los Angeles area at the time. I don't remember if his practice is here, like, his office and stuff, like his workspace. I don't know if it's here in Los Angeles. It's been a while, so I don't remember, like, why he was in the area at the time. Was he on his way to a doctor's appointment? We know he was thinking about, killing himself. So, but I just don't remember, like, I don't know if he's going to be in, like, has to worry about running into himself a couple weeks prior to the sinkholes opening up and stuff like that. So that once again, the conundrum of paradoxing this and running into yourself, and who knows what. I was about to say, like, we've run into paradoxes before and they haven't really been a thing, because I was like, well, Gavin met the younger version of himself, so I believe Gavin didn't he? There was no issue. At least not that I can remember. Was there an issue for them being around each other? Actually, I feel like I would remember, but that was, like I said, a season 1 thing, so I must not remember then if that's the case. But either way, tangents and all that aside, it's like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see where Ty's side of things end up. But also, like I brought up before, what about Josh? Where did him and Riley end up? Luckily, he'll be able to get her to a hospital. Granted, you're gonna have to explain how she got these raptor wounds, because that's gonna be a whole other story. It's like you're gonna have to lie on the spot. I don't know what lie you're gonna concoct, being like, yeah, maybe it was like a bear attack or something. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, it all comes down to what time frame he ended up. And maybe Ty ended up present day, but wherever Riley and Josh ended up might be where Eve is. You'd assume so, considering Ty got dropped off in the middle of the street, in the middle of the road, somewhat present day. So obviously those are a lot of the more larger story beats that are going on. Obviously, we still have, like, the more emotional beats and just kind of the more character beats where we have, like, hey, I don't know why I feel this way, but I love that Lucas is kind of a dork now that he's in the process of being a dad. I like him being more dorky, because it's just like when you saw that character at the beginning, you knew he was going to go through an arc, but never would have thought, like, oh my god, at the end of the series he's going to be a dad. And just like how, like, oh, like, I want to put up spikes and I want to, put up these fires to kind of keep us safe. No, nothing like fire or getting stabbed. So, but before they could even do anything about it, the clearing gets attacked by dinosaurs. So they have, like, dinosaurs, like, running amok, destroying the clearing. So cool, our little community, our little space we were building up. Luckily, they can stay at the village for a little bit, but it's like, what else are we going to do? Hopefully this situation, at least we had some semblance of being able to kind of be like, hey, we're good, when in actuality it's like, well, actually we're not now. I didn't talk about it at the end of season 2, but it's like, I didn't think about it to this episode. I was like, right, I kind of got the Cage of Eden that I wanted, didn't I? Obviously, they would never go that hard in the paint with Cage like they did with Cage of Eden. But I mean, obviously, Riley's attack is very Cage of Eden, but, because if you're unfamiliar, because I reference Cage of Eden a lot. I bring it up every once in a while in general, but, like, I referenced it a lot in season 1 because I was an idiot and didn't think about the time frame and stuff like that, about, like, oh, dinosaurs wouldn't be around. Like, someone obviously corrected me back then, but it just immediately gave me Cage of Eden vibes. If you're unfamiliar with Cage of Eden, it's a manga that basically, it's like you take the concept of Lost, but instead of mainly adults, it's high school students, and instead of, like, just worrying about a smoke monster, you're on a mysterious island where dinosaurs are still around, and then people are being brutally murdered by dinosaurs. Once again, not even just people. Some people, yes, because there's a few adults involved in the story, but it's mainly, like, 18, 19-year-old teenagers / young adults. So, yeah, that's the concept behind it. But either way, that's, this gave me even more of those vibes with just, like, the dinosaurs, like, duking it out. So, took the 3rd season, but finally got my dinosaurs, in at least in that capacity. But either way, I just thought that was funny. But either way, Lucas is, trying to be there, be very protective. Veronica got her, like, found a little mattress for her and everything, which I'm like, it's super adorable, because obviously we know how protective he can be. Like, because a lot changed for him over the course of season 1, but especially when his mom died. That's what really, really changed him to his core. And now that he's going to be a father, it changes him even further, and he wants to be a better person. But now he knows who his dad was, what his dad did, and it's just, look at how shit all of my family situation turned out to be because of all of that, and he doesn't want to make those same mistakes. And Sam tells him, it's like, right, you got to be more honest and open with Veronica, because he's like, oh, you got injured, like, it's okay to want to put her needs above yours. That's understandable, but that's a partnership. You got to be all in together. You got to be honest and stuff. But he wasn't, and ended up passing out later on. Luckily, he's okay. But Veronica's like, yeah, when things suck, we say they suck. But when things are great, we say things are great. Because he's terrified about this whole fatherhood thing. She's terrified about the whole motherhood thing. But it's like, hey, we're in this together, And it's like, you're not going to, like, things aren't going to turn out like they did with your family. Because, like, hey, like, once again, we're in this together. And also, you're trying to be a good person so you don't have to worry too much about ending up like your dad, Especially because he thought... Especially because for so long he had such a one-sided perspective on it until he learned from his mom the truth, So I think that also adds to it too, of like, especially thinking like, man, my mom won't ever get an opportunity to meet her grandchild, which where Ty is currently, your mom is still alive. So it's like, that's why I'm like, there's so many people. Once again, it just could be a thing of, because of the truncated season, it could be like, we're not getting a lot of these people back, even though we could. We might get little cameos from it. It'd be pretty dope. A lot of people we've lost along the way, but like, I don't see that happening. Once again, I'm basing this on like an IMDb page that I read that didn't seem like it was updated, but like I said, that could just be like no, they just didn't bother getting the actress back to play Aldrich because she has no role to play in this, even though you think she would. Maybe if this was a longer season, budgetary reasons, yada yada, maybe just the writers are like, we're not going to include her. Look, there's so many different reasons for that, right? So it's a bummer, but seems like a great opportunity to bring her back, like I said. But maybe we might get other people that are no longer with us there, or just the timey-wiminess of it, because I love me some timey-wiminess, especially when it's like, the dangers of undoing a lot of stuff and the butterfly effect of it all. So we'll see where things kind of go. But Veronica and Lucas continue to be like super adorbs is all I'm saying. I just love that. Like, it's such an adorable storyline. So... But, I'm really curious to see where things kind of go. Obviously, like I said, I'm getting to this super late, so the second episode's already out. It's been out for, like, a couple days already. But I'm excited to see where all this takes us. You'd assume with Petra now in the military's hands, because they'll probably use her as leverage, how would you even begin reaching out to Maya to find her in the first place if she's missing? Like, where could she be? We don't know. We did hear like Para and Silas went to go talk with with all these new threats opening up because of the Auroras and dinosaurs and stuff running amok. They were trying to gather the other tribes and had to renegotiate stuff so that we need to be more as a unit with all these threats. So maybe that could come in handy when potentially dealing with probably fully armed military, but maybe not as fully armed as we think. We'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where things go from here. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.